Great news, guys! This is the last challenge. I've just completed it. Well, actually, I completed it yesterday. I just finished it really late, so I didn't want to make a video. So, doing it today. But I'm finished. I'm so happy. This has been a very, very, very long project and a very long 21 days or a month, if you want to call it that. But yeah, it was an intense one. It was the last one, and it was to do with religion, race, culture, and religion. That was the one I tackled, but I focused more on religion. And as I've said in a couple of the other videos, I'm Roman Catholic, and I go to the parish of the Blessed Sacrament down in Virginia, right on the traffic circle there. And in the Catholic faith, it is completely taboo, and everyone knows it. I mean, I was a life teen youth leader in my church for 2 years, and I only stopped this year. I'm going to go back next year. And when we talk teens about this kind of stuff, and it's completely wrong in our faith, and that is tattoos. To be Catholic and to have a tattoo is like, there's not even a word to describe how bad it is. And so anyway, I decided I was going to tackle this. And what was interesting is I put a whole bunch of tattoos on my arm yesterday. I'll put pictures up so you can see. I drew them on with a marker and things. And what's cool is I put like a barcode on my wrist over here with 0911 because that's my birth date, September 11th. And then I drew an owl on my forearm over here. But I drew it the correct way, so the head was there and the tail was there. People were asking me how I did it, and I was like, no, I did that. I drew that. And they wouldn't believe me, so I thought it was fun. And like owls and tattoos symbolize wisdom. And people that I've come into contact with, friends and family, often have said to me that I'm quite wise. I mean, I'm not trying to be toot my own horn here, but people have said that I am quite wise at times. So I mean, I've always liked that as a compliment. So and I always try to step back from a situation and try to find the best possible answer instead of just like rushing and being like wham bam and then having some kind of real balls up later down the road. And I try to help people as much as I can. So I thought for that I would do a wise tattoo, and then I did like tribal art because tribal art's super cool, and everybody used to love the tribal tattoos. It went through a huge phase a couple of years ago. And then I also did a dragon because I like dragons. And then I drew a cross at the top. I drew a Pokemon ball because I like Pokemon, and that was about it, I think. But I mean, it took up my whole forearm here. Oh yeah, and then over here I wrote a quote, my favorite quote from the movie Robin Hood, starring Russell Crowe. And the saying or the quote goes, "Rise and rise again until lambs become lions." And for me, that's a very inspiring quote because it's basically just saying, you know, never give up, and no matter what happens, just give it your all and get back up and go at it again. And you know, one day you will achieve what you're trying to achieve, but as long as you keep going forward. So for me, that's very motivational. So the stuff that I put on my arm wasn't demonstrative in any way. Quite a few of them had meanings, and it was aesthetically, it was quite pleasing. I mean, I think tattoos nowadays have come around because we're a very aggressive society at the moment, and it's a way of expressing that aggression and frustration towards society, towards all the rules and things like that are within our social constructs nowadays. And so people are trying to be more rebellious and trying to be unique. I mean, there you've got that whole hipster trend coming in, but once again, hipsters use tattoos, and so the whole tattoo movement is a big thing nowadays, and so almost every second person you come across has a tattoo. So for me, it wasn't a big thing getting a tattoo, but what was funny is I'm really well known in my church. I'm a reader. Like I said, I used to do the youth program, and last year I was actually selected to go on the World Youth Day program for this year to represent my parish. Unfortunately, I had to pull out due to conflicting too much with college, but I was originally selected to do that, and I only pulled out a couple of weeks ago actually. So I'm a pretty well-known figure in the church, and so are my parents. We're all very involved. My dad and I, we're both readers. Like I said, he reads with me, and yeah, so we're all very involved, and people know me. And like I said, in the youth, we have to preach that tattoos are bad and you can't have them, and it goes to self-mutilation and destroying your body, and your body is a temple of God, and God created you in His image and all this kind of stuff. And so it goes completely against Catholic beliefs. And there's a lot of people in my church who are extremely rigid, if you want to call it that, with the old traditional beliefs, and those are the traditional beliefs. And there was, I know it sounds terrible, but going to church yesterday, there's one of our deacons in particular. We have 3 deacons at our church, and one of them was my RE teacher at school, and the other 2 are actually a friend of mine who I went to school with, his grandfathers. But the one in particular of his grandfathers is extremely like the old traditional values. I mean, like when it was set in stone, when Moses came down the mountain, those kind of traditional values. And everything is by the book. I mean, there's new changes that have come about that he doesn't even still accept. So he's beyond rigid. And I was actually hoping he was going to be the deacon at Mass, because I know from being at youth with him, because he's involved, how he preaches on not having tattoos. And we've played games with the teens, and he's been like, oh no, tattoos are bad and all this kind of stuff. But he gets really intense about these things. And when he goes to give out the Eucharist, I mean, he's so intense. When you receive the Eucharist, you have to respond Amen, to say I accept this after your first Holy Communion every time you go to receive it. And if a person doesn't respond Amen, he will literally keep you standing there until you say it, and then only will he give it to you. And I know for a fact, if I'd gone up there and I'd gone up to him for the Eucharist with my tattooed arm, I don't actually think he would have given me the Eucharist. I think he would have probably given me a blessing. And I think he would have really struggled if he did give me the Eucharist to see me with all these tattoos. But anyway, I went to church, like I say, and what was really clever about these tattoos, I actually drew them on with a permanent marker. I did them all myself. So pleased. And everyone from a distance, they really honestly looked like tattoos. People honestly thought I'd gone and got a whole sleeve done on my arm. And it was only when you came up really close did you actually notice that it was permanent marker. And where I was walking into Mass, and people were seeing my arm, and you could see people like, oh, and gasping, and like, oh, Luke got tattoos and all this kind of stuff, because it was in your face. And I deliberately did them here so that obviously the ink wouldn't get on my shirt, but so that people would take notice. And one thing I realized later during the Mass, when I went for communion, is you place your left hand on top of your right hand to receive communion, and my left arm was where all the tattoos were. And so it was really in the priest's face. And my priest, Father Donovan, he's also, traditional values. I mean, he's an awesome priest, but traditional values, and you don't get tattoos and all this kind of stuff. There was one guy in our youth group. There was also a youth leader, Justin. Great guy, but he went and got a tattoo at one stage, and it's just on his wrist over here. And it's ironic because it is just a very plain minimalistic cross with a heart in the center at the join. The priests and the deacons were really upset with him that he went and got this tattoo, and they were like, "Why did you get this tattoo?" And because it's against everything that they preach, and then that we have to preach to the youth. And he said, "But it shows my faith." And he said it wasn't to mark my body or to destroy my body; it was to show my faith and to be a constant reminder to me of my faith, so that I knew like that God was always with me, and that. I don't care if people see that I'm Catholic. I want people to know that I'm Catholic, type thing. And to him, it was really important to have this tattoo of his faith and of this cross. And like I saw it and I thought it was really cool. And I said to him, "Nice tattoo. I like it." And he said, "Oh, thanks, man." And he appreciated the fact that I could respect it for what it was, and I wasn't judging him because he just got a tattoo. So anyway, I went and got made all these tattoos, and I went to Mass. And the stares and the looks that I got from people, people were almost offended by the fact that I'd come to Mass. There was a couple sitting in my row, a young couple, and the guy, I mean, he's a good couple of years older. I think he's about 5 years older than me, but he used to be one of the youth leaders, and he constantly kept looking down the road because he saw I had these tattoos. And my mom said, I actually didn't notice, but he kept on scowling and was really offended and upset that I had these tattoos. And for him, it was actually detracting from the mass. It was taking away from focusing on the mass for him, but it was something on me. And for me, I actually got used to them being on my arm. For the first hour, or not even an hour, for the first 15 minutes that I had them on, I thought, oh, this is a bit strange, not weird seeing tattoos. But I actually got so comfortable and used to it. By the end of it, it was really bad. I was thinking, hey, maybe I should get a couple of tattoos. I actually quite liked having the tattoos on there, not because it was getting me attention, just because I liked expressing myself through that way. And so anyway, a lot of people were staring at me during the mass and were really angry and upset that I'd gone and got these tattoos. And when I went up for communion, like I said, put my left hand on top of my right hand to receive the Eucharist, and my priest was really upset, and he was actually angry when he gave me communion. I could see the expression on his face. It changed completely from my mom who was in front of me, and he kept on looking down at my arm and I almost want to say gesturing with his eyes to show his displeasure by the fact of seeing that I had these tattoos. And he didn't realize, actually, I think only 2 people by the end of the evening knew that they were actually false tattoos and that they were done with permanent marker. That's because they came across to inspect. Other people were kind of giving me a wide berth and, like I say, a lot of negative attention, which I did expect. I was prepared for it. What was sad was I was almost laughing a couple of times during Mass because of the attention I was getting, because it was so negative. And the irony of it is it's not a big deal. In the Catholic faith, yes, I understand why they say don't get tattoos, but they didn't even take the time to see what the tattoos were or what some of them meant. I mean, I had a cross that I'd drawn on my arm, but once again, people, because it was tattoos, that was it. It was like, no, it's bad, it's complete taboo, mustn't be doing that, and that was the big issue. Wasn't what the tattoos were, it was the fact that I had tattoos. And so I was smiling to myself about that. And what was interesting is at the end of the evening, people that usually greet me and stuff like that, or come up and say hi, were kind of avoiding me and staying away, except for a couple of people that I know really well, who, regardless, I mean, geez, I could have been doing anything. I could have been having a complete emo day, and they would still come up and spoken to me, and they came up and laughed. And one of my friends, the guy who I said earlier, his 2 grandfathers are the deacons, he ran up and he was like, bro, and he was like, oh, there's on tattoos, because he saw me from a distance and he thought they were tattoos and he thought they were real. And he's like, well, well done. He's like, those really, really look real. He said, from a distance, I honestly thought you'd gone and got tattoos. So I said, hey, then I did my job right. And then another friend of mine who's much younger, who's still in the youth program, came and was like, bro, you got tattoos. And I was like, yeah, I just felt like something different, eh? And he was like, what? And then suddenly he grabbed my arm and he was inspecting all these tattoos and he wanted to have a look at them. And I'll show you these tattoos later. I have pictures, but then he's like, no, but these can't be real. I said, no. I said, I drew them on with a permanent marker. And unfortunately, a couple of them underneath over here were starting to fade already. So, and then he was like, oh, how did you draw these and stuff? And he was more interested in the aesthetic of it compared to the fact of what it symbolized. And same with my other friend who saw me with the tattoos, the guy with the 2 deacons, Mike. He could respect the fact that I had tattoos, no matter what they were. He wasn't upset. He was just interested to see that I got tattoos because it was something that he wouldn't expect from me. And the same with the people in my church. But people were really, really upset with me. And I know going forward now, I mean, I came home and I washed them off. But I'm gonna go to church again on Sunday because I'm reading with my dad. And I'm gonna get up there and people are going to be very upset because some people are going to have seen me with those tattoos and now they're going to be like, why was he wearing fake tattoos to church? That's so disrespectful. Whereas other people are going to be really happy because they'll be like, oh, thank goodness, they were fake tattoos. And it's so interesting to see how it's not even that important when you look at it in regard to religion, because what's really important is your relationship with God and your faith. And even if I have tattoos, my faith is still strong with God, and getting tattoos is not damaging that relationship that him and I have. It's something personal to me, and it's so amazing to see how other people get affected by it, and for some reason it's such a big issue. And so that's what I was challenging in this challenge. It's actually not a big issue, and although it's seen as something really, really negative, like Justin with his tattoo with his cross, it isn't always, and why it's perceived to be that way. And what was really funny, just to end off, the homily in Mass last night was actually about not judging people, and about accepting them for who they are, and all that kind of stuff. And it was hysterical because the priest gave this homily and he was judging me throughout the whole way through Mass with this tattoo, with these tattoos and sleeves, and so were people. And everybody's nodding in the homily going, yes, we mustn't judge, we mustn't judge. But meanwhile, the moment they see me, because I have these tattoos, then they're still judging and going crazy and scowling and really upset, except for maybe one or two people who are just like, hey, Luke got tattoos, that's cool. And then when they saw they were fake, they're like, they're still cool either way. But it's just scary to see. It's something that although is wrong in my faith, it doesn't impact them, but they made it impact them. And so it was more just a reflection to see how people would react and respond to this challenge. I got the reactions I was expecting, completely negative and against the Catholic views. And considering I am a figure in the church, that I am well known, it hit home quite hard with people. So for me, it was funny. I felt like a really naughty child in school. But it didn't detract from my whole experience from Mass, but ironically it did from others. And so yeah, it was intense. I actually really enjoyed this challenge, besides the fact that it was the last one. It was more creative for me because I could draw and doodle. So I really enjoyed that aspect of it. I enjoyed getting people's reactions, and throughout this challenge, all these challenges, like I say, I've grown to the point now where I almost actually didn't care. I was like, you're judging me, but I don't care. I'm happy with who I am. Yeah, it's been quite a lot of growth for me in that instance. I've grown as a person. I'm less judgmental, more empathetic and sympathetic to people, more understanding. Excuse me, especially to people with any kind of deformity or people with tattoos and all that kind of stuff. Like, even when I was younger, going through youth, it was like, tattoos are bad and you can't have tattoos, and how could you get tattoos? Go against God's will and all this kind of stuff. And really, who says you are? I mean, even the Pope now, when he's talking, he's just saying love one another, and that's really, I'm talking about religion here, in particular my religion, the Catholic faith. It's all about loving one another. It's not about being judgmental. It's not about having tattoos. It's none of that stuff. It's about caring for your neighbor, which is something that I've brought throughout this whole challenge, is how people are so wrapped up in themselves, across this whole series of challenges, not just this specific one. And how society has just made people so vain and wrapped up in themselves that they don't take time to get to know other people, to care for other people, to help other people. And so overall, including this challenge, I think I've really succeeded with all my challenges. In particular this one, in getting the reactions that I did. They were really strong reactions. I mean, geez, people were ready to chase me out of church with pitchforks. So yeah, it worked. It went well. I got everything that I wanted out of it. I've grown through these challenges. So yeah, it was intense, but it was good. And that's the challenges done, guys. This has been a rough ride, to say the least. I'm glad it's done. I'm glad I've done them. It was intense. It wasn't always fun, but it gave me a better understanding of who I am and the people around me, as well as understanding how to kind of communicate with the people around me, because I learned through these challenges, once again, how self-absorbed they are, but what actually makes them tick, and so what I can talk to them about. And it just made me more comfortable with who I am. Like, I am a very quiet person in general, and I always think, oh, I'm not talking to enough people, or I'm not networking enough, or I'm not doing this enough. But it's actually made me realize, but it doesn't matter. I'm happy with the way I am, the way I interact with people and things. So now I'm just I'm comfortable. I've been uncomfortably comfortable. That's how it's changed. So this whole thing, you could say, has gone from body uncomfortable to body comfortable. So I'm glad I've done them. Like I say, more sympathetic and empathetic to people, more optimistic instead of pessimistic about life, better understanding of the world around me and how society controls it, and overall, just I think probably a better person. So, guys, thanks for sticking with me throughout this whole challenge. This video went on a lot longer than I expected it to, so sorry about that if you've watched the whole thing. But you know, guys, it's been a good challenge. It's been a good week, good couple of weeks. Sorry, I did this over about 3-4 weeks. And I'm just glad to say it's done. So thanks for staying tuned. Thanks for egging me on. Thanks for all my classmates at Vega. If it wasn't for you, you guys wouldn't have helped me get through this. There were times when you guys kept me going by all your chirps and your tunes, and vice versa with me giving it back to you guys and the laughs when you guys were all doing your challenges. So thank everyone that I came into contact with, especially at Vega, because it made it easier, and especially seeing people around you doing the same thing instead of just being a complete and total loner and weirdo. But thanks, guys. That's my video done. That's my challenges all done. Yes, freedom! Finally, it's been too long. That was a great Braveheart shout there. But yeah, done and dusted. Thank you, guys. I'll be seeing you in future challenges. But that's all for me. Peace!